We can use NotebookLM to teach any of our customers or our students a specific topic. We can then use the free Google Classroom to go through a setup process. Whether we choose to automate or manually grade the submission, we can then certify that individual and give them a certificate to put onto their social media or to use it in the future. And we will demonstrate that process in this video. Before we start the process with a NotebookLM notebook, we need to have the knowledge that we're going to be certifying an individual in. We're going to call that the source kit for the sake of this video. It could be an old video course. Whatever you're going to be doing, you're going to have a set of knowledge that you're going to be certifying an individual in. You want to be able to bundle this information and pass it on to your customer. You're going to upload that bundle to your Google Drive. You should then have a file in your Google Drive. We've named this file Certification Source Kit Videos. What we are then going to do is we're going to make this shareable to the individuals we're going to be passing it on to. We're going to share it with anyone with the link. Once we do that, we can then copy the link. We're then going to go to Google Classroom. We're going to set up a classroom, and we're going to set up a new classroom. We're going to click on New. We're going to click on Create Class. We're then going to state that we are not a school. We're then going to click Continue. So we're going to call this Certification Class. If you want to use all of these titles for the sake of your customer, you can do that. We're not going to do that in this video. We're just going to click Create. This is not a full-blown tutorial on how to use Google Classroom. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Classwork. We're going to create a new assignment. We're going to click on Assignment. We're going to call this the Final Certification Project. We're then going to attach our file from our Google Drive. We're going to pick up our certification source kit. We're then going to add it to the assignment. We're going to use NotebookLM to design the certification. So we're going to open the notebook. We're going to upload the files from our source kit. Our files are then uploaded to our notebook. We're going to get help from Gemini to design a project. We're going to go to Gemini. We're then going to go to the notebook that we just created. We're going to add that notebook to the conversation. And we're then going to describe the project. We're going to go to Gemini and we're going to ask Gemini to design a project that we can grade inside of Google Classroom to certify them. And we're going to choose between one of 3 projects. We're going to ask Gemini to create 3 projects. We're going to copy this entire prompt. We're then going to head to Gemini. We're going to paste in our prompt. We're then going to click Enter. And then we're going to use the highest prompt that we have available to us. So the AI does give us 3 scenarios. One requires a video submission. Another one is a text-based submission. And the third one is a longer scenario that could require multiple days. Now, the AI did go one step further, and we did give it in our prompt the opportunity to ask us questions. And that was a good thing to do, because what we're going to do here is we're going to answer the AI, and we're going to tell it, well, yes, we just want a text-based, we want it to be a quick assessment, and we want it to write out the scenario for us so that we can upload it to NotebookLM. We're then going to click Continue. Gemini does give us the project, so we're going to take this project, we're going to copy this entire thing to our Google Docs. We're just going to export this to our Google Docs. Now, part of the doc, you'll need to make sure you recognize that it is a rubric. So we'll need to make sure to delete this out before we use the Google Doc as part of our content. So we're going to go back to our classroom and we're going to screenshot this area. So we're going to screenshot the area of the classroom that we created. We're going to copy in our screenshot. Now, again, this is not a full-blown tutorial on Google Classroom. However, we're just going to use plain language. We're going to ask for Gemini to help us to set up the directions and to create the settings for our Google Classroom. So Gemini is going to tell us the settings. Gemini has given us the file attachment, which we've already done. And most importantly, text box content based on the scenario that we chose. So we have it. What we're now going to do is we're going to copy this code and we're going to head to our Google Classroom. We're going to paste in our instructions. Now, while you're working, this is auto saving, so you don't have to worry about saving it as you go. We're also going to set up these elements in the way that Gemini suggests that we set it up. So we're going to do here is suggest that we assign to all students, and so all students will then automatically be assigned. We're going to leave the drop down at 100 points. We're going to leave this at no due date. We are going to create a topic. We're going to create the topic. It's going to be called Final Certification. Now, it's an optional case whether you add in the rubric or not. Now, for the sake of this video, we're not going to add in the rubric at this point. Our final certification assignment is now saved. We're now going to go to the next step, and we're going to ask for Gemini to design a Google form using an add-on so that we can issue a PDF certificate so that when we determine the individual has passed the certification, we want the add-on in Google Forms to email them the certificate. We're going to give Gemini the opportunity to point out any flaws that we have in our process. So we will go back to Gemini and we will paste in our prompt. One more thing that we should have asked is how to change the instructions from the previous step. So we're going to ask for Gemini to rewrite all the steps, but we may have to go back and change in our instructions inside of Classroom. Gemini does pick out some flaws in the way that we've thought this through. So we're going to ask for Gemini to redo this. What we're also going to do is we're going to ask for Gemini to give us the changes that we need to make in Classroom based on this new information. So based on what we're now doing with the form, Gemini is now giving us updated Classroom instructions. So we're going to go ahead and copy this code. We're going to head back to our Classroom. We will go back to the assignment. We will edit the assignment. And now what we're going to do is we're going to edit this element. We'll just click Control All, and we'll then paste in the new instructions. And we've now pasted. We'll now save the new instructions. Gemini is now giving us step-by-step instructions on how to set up Google Forms based on the assignment and based on our Classroom. We're going to create a blank form. We can close out of the wizard. We can now go to our form. And we're going to give our form a name. As suggested, we're going to go to the settings area. We are going to make this a quiz. We are going to be reviewing this, so we're going to turn this on till later after manual review. We're then going to scroll down to responses and we're going to collect the email address. We'll allow the responder to input their email address. Now for the questions, we're going to start by having the individual put their full name in. We're going to leave it at short answer. We're going to say required yes. We're going to go to the bottom here. We're going to type in the title and description as we are instructed, and we're going to type in our scenario. And it's here in the description area where you want to paste in the entire scenario. So you're going to scroll back up to where the scenario is. And if you cut and paste from this point, then what you'll notice is that the description will then come in a spaced element. If you were to get this information from any place else, you'll notice that the spacing will not come out quite right. So we do have the spacing here inside of the scenario area in the title area. We're now going to insert a question. And you'll see the question area for us to insert. And we're going to put in our first task. And we'll see the task here. We're going to copy it. We're going to set up the paragraph. We're going to make this question required. We're going to click the answer key, and we're going to make this question worth 50 points. We'll then click Done. We're then going to submit question B. We're going to add in a question. We're going to copy in the question. We're then going to make this paragraph again. We're then going to click the answer key. We're going to make this worth 50 points. We're then going to click Done. So our form is now complete. What we can now do, we can go to this area. We can then click Add-ons. We're now going to look for the Certify'em add-on. We'll find Certify'em. We will then install the add-on. We will then give Certify'em add-on to install to our Classroom account. Now this is not a full-blown tutorial on how to set up the certification app. We did use Certify'em, which is free for the first 60 submissions. We're then going to turn on the responses. We're then going to link to a specific Google Sheet. We do want notifications for new responses. We will then select the destination for those new responses. We will then create a new spreadsheet. And once we create that new spreadsheet, the spreadsheet is then linked inside of our Google form. You should be able to go inside your Google Drive. You should then see your submission form. So our certification form is now complete. We can now publish it, and we can make it so that anyone with the link can access the form. We're going to shorten the URL and then copy the link. We can now go back to our classroom assignment. We're going to go to our drive and we're going to attach the form that we just created. We're then going to add the form. We're going to change the topic. We're going to make sure that the topic is now the final certification. We're going to make sure it's assigned to all students. We can then post the final submission. So the individual in the classroom now has the project. and they now have the submission area. Now from within Gemini, you want to do two things. You want to ask for Gemini to tell you, based on what you have done, based on your file names, how you're going to deliver the final experience to your student. And so that is what we have done. We asked Gemini first to deliver the entire process to the student. What we also did was we asked for Gemini to give us a fake submissions so that we can test out our system. Gemini did say that we had an onboarding email, so we did go back and ask Gemini to provide that onboarding email, which we will give to our customer to point them to all of the information that they're going to start with. Our final step now is to go through the process as if we are a student. We're going to need to use another Gmail in order to do it. So our student would start the process by going into their NotebookLM. They're then going to create a new notebook. They're then going to add in the source documents that we have given them. So as instructed, they now have the information inside of their notebook. Now it's a good idea here that if you have instruction on how to use NotebookLM, you want to give it to the customer at this point. That is beyond the scope of this video, but you should give the customer basic training on how they're going to learn enough from the information in order to actually get the certification correct. And you're looking at the format for an onboarding email. You're going to tell the individual to download their course materials, which we have just done. We're then going to tell them to set up their notebook, which we have just done. You want to make sure that you give them this prompt, and they're going to get this prompt in their first email. We're now going to copy that prompt, and we're going to use it as if we are our student. We are going to give the individual our classroom invite link, and we're going to place that inside of the email. We can go inside of our classroom, we can copy the invite link, and we can pass it on to our customer student. The customer student is going to get that invite link. They're then going to join the class. Now again, this is not a full-blown tutorial on how to use Classroom. It's a good idea that you customize this with an announcement telling them what to do first. We're going to assume that the individual knows. They're going to go to their classwork and they're going to click on this certification project. We'll assume that they read through the scenario. Once they read through this scenario, they're going to click on Submit here. They're then going to click on their form. The form will then open up, and they're going to put in their email address. They're going to put in their full name. They're then going to read through part 1 of the scenario. They'll then have task A. Now, what we have done is we have had Gemini give us a sample answer. We're going to copy that answer from task A. We're going to paste in the answer. We're then going to get the answer from task B, which we created. We're going to copy it. Now, again, this is a sample. We're going to head back to our student's classroom. And we're going to assume that the student wants a copy of their responses. We give them that option. They're then going to click Submit. And their response is going to be submitted. Now, what we probably want to do is we want to limit them from submitting another response. Because it is a certification, we only want them to submit one response. We now need to go inside of our form. We now have one response. Once we're inside of the response, we can write in the points, and we can grade it. We can save it. We can then go to the next question. We can then grade it, and we can save it. We can then go to the individual. The individual has their score. We can now release the score. We're now going to send emails and release the score. The individual can then check their email, and they should then see their certificate. We can turn NotebookLM into a certification along with using both Google Classroom and Google Forms, all of which are free to use. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video.